It starts with a knock, not from outside, but from inside the wall. You are laying in the bed, it's late, your sister is asleep down the hall, your father is at work, and something which has no business there is tapping rhythmically from somewhere behind the walls. You tell yourself, maybe it's pipes or old house. But then the milk starts to disappear. The TV changes channels when nobody is in the room. A knife appears stabbed in the family portrait on the wall, and one night you find words scrawled across your bedroom in ketchup and shaving cream. I'm in your room. Come and find me. This is not a movie or a creepypasta story. This happened to a real family in a real house on the streets of Pefferell, Massachusetts in 1986. And the person behind this was a 16-year-old boy who had been living inside their walls for months, watching them through peepholes, and would go on to commit one of the most horrific crimes in Massachusetts history. This is the case of Daniel LaPlante. Townsend, Massachusetts, population around 11,000, an hour northwest of Boston, the kind of small New England town where everything was safe, predictable, or even boring. Daniel Joseph LaPlante was born on 15th May 1970, and by every measure, his life was broken from the start. His parents divorced when he was young. His biological father was abusive towards him. His mother, Elaine, was a single parent working for long hours just to provide enough food. She would eventually remarry to have two more sons, giving Daniel a stepfather and two half brothers. But according to Daniel's own account, he would give years later, this was what was happening behind the closed doors. He claimed that he was sexually and psychologically abused by his biological father, and then his stepfather continued the cycle. He claimed that the very psychiatrist his family sent him for help, the one adult who was supposed to understand his problems and treat him, sexually assaulted him for over a year during their sessions. Now I want to pause and give you a note that there is no concrete evidence to confirm these allegations. There are no police records or witness, and Daniel himself is not a very reliable narrator. But as one investigative source points out, the absence of documentation doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. In 1974, when Daniel was only 4 years old, his father would go to jail for sexually assaulting a woman, so there is high possibility that he abused Daniel. Daniel attended elementary school in Townsend, then he moved to St. Bernard High School in Fitchburg, where he played sport and ran track. So when Daniel was in St. Bernard High School, he was examined by a psychiatrist where he was diagnosed with dyslexia at an early age. Later, he struggled with other neurodevelopmental disorders, specifically learning disabilities and attention deficit disorder. Daniel used to play sports in school, so he was in a good shape, but in hygiene, he lacked severely. He used to wear the same sweaty clothes every day and rarely washed himself. His face was covered with acne and his hair was greasy. The students used to call him creepy and weird. By the time Daniel was 15, he began breaking into houses across the town during daytime when families were at work or school. He was very good at it, very methodical. He would scout a house, find an entry point, then slip in and take whatever he wanted, usually cash, jewelry, or small valuable items that might not be noticed for days. By the age of 15, he would be arrested multiple times for breaking and stealing in houses. But these arrests didn't stop him. Daniel started playing with his victims. At one house, he would steal a few items, and next, he would just rearrange the furniture, like moving a picture frame, shifting a lamp to a different table. He wanted families to come home and feel that unsettling sense that someone had been in their house. The Bowen family lived at 93 Lawrence Street in Pefferell, Massachusetts. just a short drive from Townsend. Frank Bowen was a hotel restaurant manager, a single father. His wife recently died of cancer, and he was raising his two daughters, 14-year-old Tina and 8-year-old Karen. And now comes the question, how did Daniel make contact with his family? Well, it depends on which account you read, but the most consistent version I found this was Daniel somehow obtained the Bowen's phone number, and there he started talking with the two daughters. He told them that he was from the neighboring school and described himself as blonde, athletic, academic, and a very good looking guy. After a few phone calls, he asked Tina out on a date, and she said yes. On the day of their date, Tina found out that the boy looked nothing like he described himself. Daniel was greasy, dirty, disheveled. She was shocked, but she went along with it. They went to a local fair, but within an hour, Daniel started asking disturbing questions about her dead mother. Like, how did she die and what was the end was like? Which definitely creeped out Tina, and she made an excuse and ended the date. Realistically, it should have been ended there. A bad date, awkward moments, and there was something unsettling about his behavior, but for Daniel, it was the start. In the weeks that followed, the Bowens household started experiencing things that no one could explain. It began with the sounds, knocking inside the wall, thumping that seems to come out of nowhere. The daughters recently had a seance, which is a ritual where people attempt to communicate with the spirits of the dead, and the girls did it to contact with their late mother's spirit. When the knocking started, they believed that it was their mother who was contacting them, but it wasn't their mother. But then messages appeared. Marry me. Scrawled on Tina's bedroom in ketchup. And then, one more. I'm in your room. Come and find me. A knife was stabbed in the family portrait. The girls were now beyond terrified. One evening, their phone line was cut and burned. Frank called police, but they found nothing. And then silence. For about a month, these strange activities stopped, and then it all came back, and now even worse than before. On December 8th, 1986, the family came home to find every light in the house blazing and TV on a full volume. Frank Owen began searching in the house one by one in every room. He checked the basement and noticed someone used the toilet. And then he moved to the front of the house and opened the closet door. And there was, standing inside, Daniel LaPlante. His face was painted white. His hair was spiked into wild tufts. He was wearing a coat and a mask, and in his hand he was holding Frank Owen's own hatchet and a steel wrench. Frank took the girls immediately down the hallway into the bedroom and slammed the door shut. In the chaos, Frank told Tina to jump from the window and go to neighbor's house to call police. When police arrived, Daniel was gone, vanished like smoke. But what they found in their search was almost worse than finding him. Behind walls and beneath the floor, police discovered a network of crawl spaces and narrow tunnel spaces, barely 6 inches wide, where Daniel had been living. He had cut peepholes to watch the family. He had been living there for months. They finally caught him 2 days later, and he was charged with armed assault, breaking into a house, and armed burglary. Daniel was sent to a juvenile detention facility where he stayed there until October 1987, less than a year, when his mother remortgaged her house to pay his $10,000 bail. It was clear that Daniel didn't learn any lesson from his punishment, and he was back to his old patterns immediately, robbing, burglaries, and this time, most critically, firearms. On 14th October 1987, he broke into the home and stole 2 guns and a sizable amount of cash. A few weeks later, Daniel's stepfather found one of those guns in Daniel's laundry basket, and when he confronted him, Daniel said he bought it. December 1st, 1987. Priscilla Gustafson was a 33-year-old, a nursery school teacher, loved by her students and adored by the community. She was pregnant with her third child. That afternoon, at around 1 p.m., she picked up her 5-year-old son, Williams, from the babysitter and drove home. Her husband, Andrew, was at work, and their 7-year-old daughter was at school. Daniel walked towards the Gustafsons' house carrying his second stolen gun, and when Priscilla walked through her front door and with her son, Daniel was already inside. He confronted her with gun and forced her and William into the bedroom and put her son in the closet. Then he tied Priscilla to the bed and gagged her with one of his own socks, and then he raped her. Then he placed a pillow over her head and fired twice at the point-blank range. Then Daniel pulled William from the closet, carrying him down the hall to the upstairs bathroom, and he drowned him face down in the bathtub. At approximately 3:30 p.m., Gustafson's 7-year-old daughter stepped off from her school bus and walked up to her front door. Daniel dragged her into the separate bathroom downstairs, and then she was also drowned in the bathtub. According to forensic psychiatrist who would evaluate Daniel decades later, said that there was no evidence of emotions or feelings. He killed an entire family in a very systematic way. At approximately 5 p.m., Andrew Gustafson came home from work, and he was horrified when he saw his wife's body face down on the bed, pillows soaked in blood. He immediately called police. Police would later find a nearly full bottle of beer in the bedroom taken from their refrigerator. In the kitchen wastebasket, they would find torn pages from the pornographic magazine, and in separate bathroom, officers would find his dead children. Police traced the sneaker prints in flower bed outside the house. Tracking dogs were bought, and search for the killer began. The next day, a shirt was found in the woods and a pair of soaking wet work gloves. Later, chemical tests found gun residues on gloves. The dogs sniffed the shirt and tracked through the woods through Daniel's yard to within 3 to 4 feet of his home. 2 state troopers interviewed Daniel that afternoon in the public library, where he told him that he spent the previous day at home watching TV alone. That evening, on 2nd December, state police arrived at Daniel's home to speak with him again, but Daniel saw them through the window and he ran away. The next day, he broke into 2 houses, stealing a revolver. Then he forced his way into the home of a woman named Pamela, ordering her at a gunpoint to drive him in her van towards Fitchburg. The woman was scared, and in desperate act of courage, she jumped from the moving van and escaped. Daniel abandoned the vehicle and fled on his foot into lumber yard, and then he climbed into the dumpster and hid inside. Later, 2 officers found him. Daniel LaPlante was tried as an adult in 1988. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Thomas F. Rayleigh. The defense strategy was not to prove innocence outright, because the physical evidences against him were too overwhelming. Instead, defense counsel suggested, primarily through cross-examination, that someone else might have committed the crimes instead of Daniel, and he is just taking blame for them. Like, how absurd. And of course, jury didn't buy it. In October 1988, Daniel LaPlante was convicted of murder in the first degree on all 3 indictments, and he was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences with the possibility of parole after 45 years of his conviction. That means he couldn't even appear before the parole board until approx the age of 62. Before ending this case, let's look at what was going inside Daniel LaPlante's head. At the time of the murders, he was diagnosed with a conduct disorder. He He told people that he worshipped Satan and he was said to have tortured animals. In the months before the killing, he had been telling people, "I don't care if I kill." 30 years later, forensic psychiatrist Dr. Fabian Sella conducted an 8-hour clinical evaluation on Daniel, and he concluded that he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder. He showed no empathy or remorse at any given point of the time. As of today, Daniel LaPlante is 55-year-old and he will be eligible for parole hearing sometime in early 2030s. And this was the story of the killer who lived in the walls. Honestly, while I was working on this in the middle of the night, it genuinely terrified me. It's one thing to hear about such cases, but diving in details was absolutely haunting. If you like this video, then make sure you like and subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.